Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. It's Jerry Miller. It's good to be with you, baby, on a Tuesday. I am fired up. I had a fantastic morning meeting with entrepreneurs, and it just invigorates me. I mean, one of the things I love about what I do is I sit next to influencers, leaders, people that are making a difference in our community. And guys, I feed off the energy. I chase that energy. It's like chasing whatever it is, the competitive juices we do in athletics that keep me coming back. That same juice that I get from competing is the juice I get from meeting with entrepreneurs. My name is Jerry Miller. This is going to be a killer show on the I Love CVille Show. Lee Elberson is going to be our guest. He's going to join us shortly. He is the CEO of Clayborne Education. He is a board member at the Community Investment Collaborative. Yep. And the CIC is doing amazing things in Charlottesville, Virginia. In fact, one of my tenants in the Macklin building is someone who's matriculated through the CIC and used the CIC as a guide, like guidance and a stepping stone and a springboard to launching her business. Her name is Frances Ingram, and she is a rock star. Before we get to Lee Elberson, before we get to the CIC, before we get to Clayborne Education, before we pick Lee's big, beautiful brain, let's thank Greenberry's Coffee. I don't know if you guys know this, but for about 28 years, a husband and wife tandem literally started with a dream of launching a coffee shop. They had a beat-up Honda Civic and some sweat equity 28 years ago. They did a roasting facility in the McIntyre office park, and they opened up a store on Barracks Road at a time when people laughed at them and told them you will never be able to sell $3, $4, $5 coffee when it's 50 cents on the market. Well, guess what? Greenberry's is global with locations in Japan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, soon to open in Portland, Washington, D.C., and ladies and gentlemen, it started right here in Charlottesville, Virginia, and that gets me jacked. I want to thank Scott Wagner, the good doctor, Scott Wagner, Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. Did you guys know that this dude is changing people's quality of life? I'm literally watching people walk into Dr. Wagner's office unable to walk, in pain, uncomfortable, and whether it's Dr. Wagner, Dr. Sterling, Dr. Stizak, these dudes are making a difference in people's lives. It's Scott Wagner of Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. Who's got your back? Baby, Scott Wagner does. Harris is our boy behind the board. He's the director of this program. Judah Wickhauer, the producer. Let's go to the two-shot, Harris. Let's welcome a guy that's already making us look good. I mean, he's looking sharp. He's flossing right now.
Trying to.
Lee Elberson, our guest, the CEO of Clayborne Education. My boy, how are you? Well, thank you for joining us.
Wow, man, you know, I'm getting invigorated by your energy now, Jerry. Yeah, I'm happy to be with you. I'm doing great. Same as you. Met with an entrepreneur this morning. Met with Charlottesville Abundant Life Ministries, helped them out planning an event, and even got some squash in this morning, so it's going to be a good day.
Charlottesville Abundant Life Ministries, let's get right into it.
Sure.
Is that the one that Matthew Gillikin and Michael Guthrie are big in? Is that the one by Orangedale?
Yes.
Okay. I keep hearing Charlottesville Abundant Life Ministries. What is going on there?
So Charlottesville Abundant Life Ministries aims to just help youth in this, this troubling time right now. It's really tough for youth to find their way, and they help not just under-resourced youth. They just try to help with camaraderie amongst young teenagers, people just advancing the next stage in their life, and we try to help them out with that. If they need help academically, we help them with that, and they're getting ready to throw a big event for March Madness, so I'm really stoked for that.
Awesome, awesome. Big-time people involved in Charlottesville Abundant Life Ministries. Michael Guthrie, the CEO of Roy Wheeler, a good buddy of mine, Matthew Gillikin, who's a rock star on Twitter. Find out he has ties to it. I'm going to follow that closely. And you know what I want to do with this program is I want to use it as a platform and a springboard to showcase all the awesome business and entrepreneurs that are going on. We'll do it through showcasing your business, Clayborne Education, which I love your growth strategy. I love how you've captured market share. I love how you are growing the brand. I also want to talk about some of the folks you work alongside, because he is of the mindset, just like me, that if you give more than you take, you're going to win, and you're going to leave Charlottesville in a better place. And that's what this dude is doing. So let's talk about the Community Investment Collaborative. We'll start open-ended first. What is the CIC?
Great question. So the Community Investment Collaborative is an organization which is which aims to help under-resourced entrepreneurs in Charlottesville, give them the tools, the networking, the mentoring, and even microloans to get their businesses started. I think the strategy is to tell them that you're not born an entrepreneur. Anybody can be an entrepreneur. You just need the tools, and you need people who believe in you and empower you. And that's what we do at Community Investment Collaborative.
What are some of the challenges that you see with each of the participants in the collaborative? This is what I often see as the owner of an advertising agency and people trying to come to market, is the overcoming of the fear of failure. I think oftentimes we can talk procedures. We can say you need to get your business license. You need to get an LLC, an S Corp situated so you protect your personal assets. You need to have a good tax preparer that is a trusted advisor, maybe an attorney that you trust. You need to have a good brand and a good website. Those are some of the obvious things here. Talk to me about the folks and the fear of failure and potentially looking bad on social media.
Yeah, so that's all of those things you mentioned, Jerry, are some of the struggles that our entrepreneurs suffer with. But I think one of the main things they suffer with is just first of all getting over this idea that I need to get this right the first time. Forgetting the fact that a business it's an organism, right?
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, and for many of our entrepreneurs, it's that getting at that tipping point where they're going to dive in. They don't just start with $20,000 left in their pocket and they're starting a business. They have part-time jobs. So it's coming to that pivot point where they say, you know what? I'm done with this part-time job. I'm ready to just go all in on my business. I'm starting a hair salon and I'm going to give it my all. And the time at which they do that is something they struggle with. How do I know when it's time to jump off the diving board and go all in?
Good answer right there. And guys, we're talking about being an entrepreneur in Charlottesville. Lee Elberson is our guest, and why he's our guest is for a number of reasons. His energy and his vision and his approach to life, I think, is contagious. It's positive. It's genuine. It's philanthropic. It's altruistic. He also is the CEO of a thriving business, Clayborne Education. I really like this piece as well. He's one of the board members of the Community Investment Collaborative, and everywhere I'm looking, hearing tenants running from me, I'm seeing about it on social media, the CIC is dramatically and positively impacting Central Virginia. And I'd like to spotlight the organization with one of its board members, who I believe, Lee, also teaches a class.
Yes. So I have an interesting story in CIC. So when I first moved to Charlottesville 6 years ago, I wanted to start a business. And I was under the assumption that you had to go to Darden, or you have to go to get your MBA to be able to run a business. And a friend of a friend told me about CIC, and I thought, this little micro MBA class, this would probably be a good stepping stool to kind of give me what it takes to go to get my MBA. I entered the class with just an idea to start an online tutoring company, and by the end of it, I thought, I don't need an MBA. I have all of the tools I need to run a business in CIC, and so the pivotal offering of CIC is a 16-week workshop. They go over everything from HR hiring to cash flow to what is my customer's journey throughout this throughout their process. And again, at the end of it, you really feel empowered to know your business, not just some generic business. You take your idea and you bring your passion to fruition.
I love it. I love it. You got people from the CIC on the feed right now. Catherine Matthews says, what's up?
Oh, tell her that. Yeah.
Iron Popples and coffee.
Oh, yes. I probably go there way too much, but yeah, I love Catherine.
Okay, Catherine Matthews, we're huge fans of you right here on the show. She joined us to talk about her entrepreneurial journey on the show. A lot of folks on the feed. Elliot Harding, thank you for joining us. Andrew Zampanta, I'm butchering your name, Andrew, I'm sorry. Thank you for joining us. James Watson, Lauren Linsky, Keith Smith, Tim Ryan, Jim Gilmore, Corbin Snow, Snow's Garden Center, Snow Nose on the cast right now. Jay Wyatt, love you, Jay Wyatt. Michael Buchensky from First Heritage Mortgage on the cast. Like and share the stream. What we're trying to do is put Charlottesville in a positive spotlight. Like and share the stream, guys. How about some success stories from the CIC?
Yeah, so, I think one of the success stories I think of the most is a friend of mine, Devon Anderson, started a business called All About Car Audio. And Devon's got a really fascinating story. He was actually in the same class with me 5 years ago. He won his entry into the class through a pitch competition. So Devon really just started with an idea. And he said, I want to be able to help people install car stereos, but I'm going to go to their house. I'm going to make this mobile, right? I'm going to take it to you. That way you don't have to go somewhere like Crutchfield to get it installed. So in starting with just that idea, he went through the CIC class, and not only did it help him shape his idea, it really gave him the tools, gave him mentoring, and he's just been extremely successful. I know he's been successful because I used to see him about once or twice a quarter, and now I'm lucky if I see him once a year. He's a really busy guy.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. And another one that I want to highlight, and correct me if I'm wrong, last name Brinson. I believe it was
Antwon Brinson. Yeah,
yeah.
Culinary Concepts.
Yeah.
Antwon is just one of the most motivated entrepreneurs I've
Seriously.
ever met.
Dude, he had, Antwon Brinson is
Yes.
his name, Culinary Concepts. This guy, and I think this concept is genius, Charlottesville, Virginia. And I want to thank Jay Wyan and Michael Buchensky for sharing the feed. We want to thank Shane Buchanan and Brian Rothamel for joining us on the program. Like and share this feed. We're putting Central Virginia in a positive spotlight. Please, guys, let me throw this to you. So Antwon Brinson of AB Culinary Concepts.
Yes.
This guy is training personnel to help potentially funnel them to understaffed restaurants in Charlottesville and Central Virginia.
That's correct. So Antwon, like many of our entrepreneurs, Antwon started in Charlottesville at the Common House. He was a chef at the Common House. And he recognized a problem, something all entrepreneurs should do. He said, I'm having a really tough time staffing my kitchen at Common House. Where do people go to get trained to work back of the house in restaurants? And realized there was a real need for this. And so his idea was to start a class where he helps train people to work back of the house, and not only that, help them secure jobs. I think his first class, he had like 90% job security. He helped people get jobs, 90% of them get jobs right out of his class. So he's really doing amazing things.
He really is. And Harris, what we're doing here, we're going to create a longer sizzle reel for the CIC. We're going to start it when I said, what is the CIC? And we're going to continue it through this conversation and these answers with Lee. Lee, guys, is one of the board members of the CIC. Nathan Evans, one of the talented attorneys in Charlottesville. Thank you for joining us here on the broadcast. I have seen the CIC in a number of support ways. One of the support ways I have seen is this is the roadmap you have to launching a business in Charlottesville. But one of the underestimated, underappreciated, maybe not underappreciated, but undermarketed or, one that's not really known as much in the community is the sense of community that comes from the CIC. You guys are like a fraternity or sorority. I mean, I'm seeing the photos on social media of them just like hanging and, giving each other props. John Copper's a guy I know well that's come through the CIC. John Copper is working now and volunteering his time with graduates of the CIC. I think he's working with Scott Williams, who's trying to launch some kind of athletic or event-oriented business. I love some Johnny Copper on this program. And where I'm going with this is, even if they're not in the same class or year or term, there seems to be, Lee, this incredible sense of like solidarity, generational solidarity. And by generational, I mean year after year after year, people are like, hey, you're from the CIC. I give props to you. I respect you. Put that in perspective.
Yeah, so that's great. I think one thing that really hits home for us is that most of our participants come through us through referrals. I know personally, I've told everybody I know who wants to start a business, start with CIC, because it's not just about giving you the tools, it's about letting you know that you're not alone in this journey. You've got other people who are struggling with it, and that's through the class which you develop with your classmates is, you know what, we have different businesses, but we've got the same struggles, and we now have resources to help us solve these problems. And
love it.
That's why you get such camaraderie amongst this organization.
Why was this not more of why did this not exist more prior to the CIC? I mean, how did the CIC even become what the CIC is today?
Well, that's great. So we had a couple of our founding board members.
Who are they?
Well, so Tuan Nguyen, owner of CVille Coffee.
Okay.
Wendy Brown. Charlie Thacker was a big piece of it. Charlie was probably one of the ones that really helped us codify it. Charlie volunteered at this organization called WeBo in New York, which does the same thing. They helped under-resourced entrepreneurs get a business started. And so those founding board members looked and said, you know what? We have a problem here in Charlottesville. There's not enough minority businesses. There's not enough people who have the tools to get the business started. We want to lower that barrier to entry. And so really just around a coffee table came up with the idea that let's help give these entrepreneurs the tools to start a business.
That's amazing. And I think a lot of those businesses were even being started at Tuan's spot at CVille Coffee. I mean, you go in there, it's an epicenter of like entrepreneurial discussion. I mean, let me throw this to you here. As far as Twan and the CIC goes here, and we're going to shift to Clayborne Education. The whole concept is anyone can join, anyone can get in the mix, and it's not just like we mentioned the car stereo installation. We mentioned Antwon Brinson and his culinary concepts. There's a very well-credentialed person here on the second floor that's doing it from a therapy standpoint. There's so many different categories this is catering to, Lee.
Yes. I mean, we get, when we look at the class distinctions, we look at the people starting businesses. I mean, we have people starting hair salons. We have people starting apps. We have people starting a car customization services, starting tutoring companies. I mean, it really stretches the breadth of all the businesses you could see in Charlottesville. Some of them are already in business, so it's not just for people starting a business. If you're in business and you think you're struggling, come through the class. Again, it gives you that camaraderie and gives you the tools to make you feel confident.
Lee Elberson, our guest guy, CEO of Clayborne Education, also one of the board members at the CIC. A question coming in from Catherine.
Okay.
She says, do you work with different fellowships, scholarships, grants to fund mentoring for people from low-income backgrounds, and how would someone go about getting funding if you do?
That's a great question, Catherine. Thanks so much for asking. The answer to all those questions is yes. So, like I said, the workshop costs, it's a $750 workshop, but we do offer scholarships. Usually about 30 to 40% of our class is on scholarship. We do offer a mentoring program. Our mentoring program is free of charge. And we do offer a number of other workshops throughout the program, and most of those workshops are either free or they're low cost. So we always welcome more people in the program, and our aim is, again, to sort of bridge the gap between those who have resources to start a business and those who don't.
You just got some props for that answer right there. Matthew Willis, thank you for joining us. John Gilmore, Meg Taylor, Dan Barnes, Jonathan Galasso, Jeremy Stanwyck, Michael Jameson, Rick Henderson, Rob Lawson. I'm out of breath. I can keep going. Thank you guys for joining us in the program. Like and share the feed. Keep the attention positive on Charlottesville, Virginia, and its thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem. We'll shift gears, and that's a good cutoff point for the CIC Sizzle Reel Harris. We'll shift gears and talk about Clayborne Education. This is this man's business. He is the Chief Executive Officer, and I will say this. This is going to embarrass you a little bit. Since you have got involved with Clayborne Education, I have seen more brand awareness than ever before. I have seen you penetrating new markets. I have seen you buying out other competitors.
That's correct.
And consolidating under the Clayborne brand. You truly are taking a business from what was probably small cap when you started, I think that's safe to say, and trying to penetrate into the mid cap category. Is that safe?
That's safe to say. My business partner would probably agree with you.
Okay. So let's put in perspective, open-ended question, the evolution of the Clayborne brand starting in Charlottesville in its infancy. And then we will track its evolution on the show. Infancy first, sir.
Great. So Clayborne Education was started by my business partner, Charles Clayborne Daniel, and was started, not surprisingly, out of CVille Coffee. My business partner has always been really good at taking tests, and as he was figuring out the next step in his life, said, I can really help these students and families get to the next level, because that's really why all tutors do it, is you want to get that aha moment, get them to the next level. And sort of organically, the business started to grow. Within a couple years, he hired a couple of other tutors because he couldn't do all the tutoring himself. Got a space right there on High Street, right next to La Michoacana.
I remember.
One of the best Mexican places in town, in my opinion. And then just before I started with the company, I moved to Charlottesville in 2013. And I actually was going to start a tech company with my best friend and decided to tutor at Clayborne just to make some extra money, and had this aha moment thinking, I am going to start a company, but I'm going to start a tutoring company.
That's awesome.
I felt I owed it to Clay. Clay's a very respectable guy, really good friend of mine, to say, I should probably let him know that I'm going to start my own business and we'll be competitors. Clay, being the brilliant guy he is, said, I've got a better idea. Why don't we be business partners? And I thought that is a much better idea. And so when I joined in 2014 as his business partner, we really started to separate the duties, and I thought, how can we grow the company? And Clay thought, how can we grow our curriculum? You know, before that, we were just sort of flying by the seat of our pants, just using other people's books and other people's materials. And one of the first things we started to target is, you know, in a business like ours, we need to, you know, grow more clients. And so I started looking at the other companies in town, and Champion Tutoring was the oldest tutoring company in town. They started in '96. And luckily, I had a friend who worked there, and she told me that Anna Pachias, who was the owner, was looking to sell. And it was just a great relationship. The minute we started talking with Anna, she felt that we could really steward Champion and grow it. And by combining with Clayborne, we would really make it to the next level. So that was 2015. We acquired Champion Tutoring. Then from there, we sort of took a step back and thought, how can we really make impact in the community? Growing the business is one thing, but we really want to make impact in the community, and that starts with families. It starts with bridging the achievement gap. So we talked about CIC sort of bridging the gap for the under-resourced. We wanted to do the same thing with our business. So 2016 was the launch of our first robust scholarship program. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't just people who could afford these services that get them, but pretty much anybody. So we started partnering with organizations like Computers for Kids. We started partnering with Boys and Girls Club. We started partnering with Upward Bound. We started partnering with Charlottesville Abundant Life Ministries. We realized that they had these students who really could use our help. And so through that growth, naturally, by helping out the community, we started to get more paying clients, which allows us to develop a more robust scholarship program. And so just last year, we started to broach into the Richmond market, and it's been one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And I go to work every day not thinking I'm going to work. I think I get to go work with amazing people. Some of the most brilliant people in the world, I think, work at Clayborne, and of course I'm biased, but you know, you surround yourself by brilliant people and great things happen.
I love that answer. Harris, you love that answer too. Let's sizzle reel that, and call it in the drive, Clayborne Evolution. And I thought that answer was so great. And guys, do you understand why we're featuring Lee? Lee is a social entrepreneur. He's the epitome of a conscious capitalist who is committed to, yes, running a for-profit business, yes, that is focused on making money because it understands that's how it hires more people and gives its current employees raises that are above raises that maybe other businesses aren't giving. But at the same time, he understands that he's going to leave Charlottesville, Virginia in a better place than he first arrived, and that being a capitalist and being someone that's committed to the community can work together in concert, okay? It's not just about the dollars and cents. It's a truly amazing concept. When you give more than you take, how much you really win on the back end. And I think he epitomizes this. One of the other reasons why I was so excited to bring you on is it has so many cool subplots, the Clayborne journey. It's like you have the founder of the business who maybe is more the vision and idea guy and less potentially like the practical, this is the roadmap to get us to the next step, which clearly is what you provided. Then you also have the purchasing of a competitor to increase market share, but in a way that was done amicably as opposed to a hostile takeover. Right. And then you have the penetrating into a brand new Manifest Destiny-like market in Richmond, Virginia, where you really know nobody. And in Charlottesville is not even fair to call it the beta, because why it's not the beta is because the founder, Clayborne, lived in the community and was using his name and his goodwill and his personality and his human instinct to build the business. So I don't think Charlottesville is your beta. I think truly your beta, and I hate to say this because you might hate me for this, is Richmond, because you know nobody.
That's probably
in Richmond
correct.
In the market. So really, if you ever try to exit to private equity and you have like 8 to 10 markets, which I'm sure knowing you have an exit strategy, and you have 8 to 10 markets, I hate to say this, homie, Richmond's your first market, and it's not Charlottesville. Your thoughts on that, my buddy?
Yeah, you know what? You're 100% right, because what worked for us in Charlottesville is such a small town. You can't walk down the downtown mall without running into somebody you know. And generating word of mouth in a place where you know everybody is pretty easy for your business. Moving into a new market where you don't know anybody and you're trying to leverage a good name, but what does Clayborne mean to people in Richmond? They don't know. We haven't proven ourselves there. So I think you're absolutely right. I think Richmond really is our beta to see whether we can scale this, because ultimately I'm trying to scale a business, but my motivation is I'm trying to help as many students make it to the next level as possible. And I know that they are better off with us helping them out than anyone else. Forget about the Kaplans, forget about the Princeton Reviews of the world. Clayborne Education is that personalized approach. We're not trying to just help students pass a test. We're trying to help them with this holistic model and think, okay, so you've got a lot of other stresses in your life. Here's what your parents are wanting for you. Here's what you're wanting. Here's what we think. Let's see if we can come to a shared vision and get you there. And I think that's what makes us unique.
I love it. I love it. Michael Guthrie, who's the CEO of Roy Wheeler Realty Company, he's watching right now. And Michael, I believe you're one of the board members at Charlottesville Abundant Life Ministries. We were talking earlier on the show, if you just tuned in, he was meeting with Charlottesville Abundant Life Ministries earlier today. Just shows you like that 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing, where everybody is like 1 or 2 people away from being connected. Guthrie is offering some good perspective right now. He said, guys, I love this conversation. I posted this quote earlier today on social media. Quote, "We become mature adults when we understand finally that in the areas we influence, just like our lives, it is more about what we give than what we get." And that end quote, and that was from Joel Manby. I agree with that. I know you do.
Yeah,
that was deep there.
Yeah, I think that 100% I agree with that. And I think that goes into what makes Charlottesville unique. When I first moved here, everybody who lives here loves Charlottesville. And being an outsider, there's this part of you that's oppositional that thinks, wait a second, I'm not sure if I want to drink the Kool-Aid.
Bodo's bagels are not the best bagels in the world. That's what you were thinking. My wife felt the same, dude.
That's blasphemy here in
it's
Charlottesville.
blasphemy, it is.
But, after a couple years, I realized it's the giving culture here. I never before in my life had I really ever consistently volunteered. And being in Charlottesville and realizing there are 1,000 nonprofits here in Charlottesville. And that means that Charlottesville is above all other cities in its nonprofit density. It just means you have that many people wanting to make this a better place to live. And I think that's what makes it unique. That's what I love about it. And it really is. It's about giving back to the community and not taking from it.
I love it. I totally love it. And Michael says he loves that you're working with Charlottesville Abundant Life Ministries. He says Clay Daniel is on Al's board. Throwing that to you. Some folks you know?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a small world. It's so small world. All right, let's talk Clayborne here. Walk me through the steps here. You're a subcontractor working for Clayborne, trying to earn some extra ducats to help supplement your lifestyle. You're a smart dude. You're extremely well credentialed. I read your bio and I couldn't even understand some of the stuff that you're. Put in perspective your credentials, your education piece.
Okay, yeah. So my background is in.
And don't be modest.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
My background is in experimental physics, okay? So I've always been good at solving problems. That's what drew me to physics. When I was an undergraduate, that's the only reason why I went into physics is because physics is just solving puzzles. And I figured, well, this is a great way to make a living. I went to grad school for chemical physics and thought, wow, this is great. The puzzles are great. They're a little more complicated. And by the time I started working on my PhD research, the puzzles are really big. You're working with billion-dollar laser systems, focusing them to very tiny locations in space and time, and trying to see if you can make a star out of a really tiny piece of gold, basically. And it's a really incredible journey, and it wasn't until the tail end of that I realized that lifestyle just wasn't meant for me. I didn't get a lot of face-to-face time. I didn't feel impact of helping another individual. And so throughout my time of working in experimental physics, I learned a lot about math and science, which luckily in the tutoring field...
Those are important.
Always need more math and science tutors. And so that naturally drew me to help people out and try to get them to understand the beauty of math and science. I want them to do better in class, but what I'd really love is for them to see the world like I see it. Math is just this amazing tool that we get to use.
I love that answer, Harris.
I know that makes me a huge nerd.
You and I are such on the same page, Harris. He's reaching for the time to mark the sizzle reel. He's good people. Harris behind the board making us look and sound good. It doesn't make you a nerd. It makes you someone that's passionate about something and so passionate about it that he's able to pass that passion on to other people. And in that book, that makes you cool. And you are cool. Like, I always leave our interactions feeling better about myself or invigorated about something. And I can't possibly imagine you in any kind of profession where you're not interacting with humans on an often, frequent basis, because that's like one of your best skill sets. I understand that you have this like very linear and like very like problem-solving brain that's able to get from point A to B through methodical steps that you figure out on your own. And that's truly one of your skill sets. But I think your biggest skill set is this. And I am just like, how have you leveraged this and this ability that you have to further the Clayborne brand? Because you, in a lot of ways, have become, for lack of a better phrase, the Derek Jeter of Clayborne, the face of the franchise.
Yeah.
You're the face of the brand. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so that's and that's by design. My business partner and I talked about our skill sets, and you hit the nail right on the head. My skill set is in connecting people,
right.
And some people might view me as a salesman. I don't ever feel like I sell anything. I listen to people's problems, and I know that if they have a problem that overlaps with what we do, we are the best people to help them out, and we will find any way to be able to help them out. And so the way I leverage it is I say, just put me in a room with somebody, whether it's the headmaster of a school, the head of college counseling, it's a parent, put me in a room with them, and I can explain to them why Clayborne is different, why we're so passionate about helping individuals make it to the next step in their career.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And let's thank some folks for watching. April Dent Ward, I see you. Love some April Dent Ward on this program. Thank you for watching, April Dent Ward. James Watson, love you, man. Love you, James Watson. Thank you very much for watching this program. If you guys could do us the favor of liking the stream and sharing this stream, that would continue to put the spotlight on Charlottesville and Clayborne Education and Lee Elberson, who is giving way more to Charlottesville than he's taking. And that's why he's here on this show, because we want to spotlight those efforts. How about the purchase of Champion Tutoring? I think every entrepreneur or business owner has aspirations of expanding their model and growing and making more money. That's why we get into this.
Absolutely.
You know? Okay. You chose to, instead of going potentially head-to-head, to purchase a competitor. Now, you had some intel that she was looking to exit, which probably helped you with this decision.
Right.
But put the entire thought process into perspective for folks that are watching now that are entrepreneurs and business owners.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we were at the stage where we were definitely in the growth mindset, and in a service-based business, there's not a whole lot of assets to the business. So in acquiring another business, or even growing for that matter, you're really increasing your client base.
Right.
And the easiest way to do that in the shortest amount of time possible is to buy someone else's client base. Hey, you already have clients, you already have brand loyalty to Champion. Why don't we just join forces and acquire you and put them eventually under the umbrella of Clayborne Education? Yeah. So I think that in thinking about growing, it's funny, when I was taking CIC, I remember vaguely thinking about reading about acquisition strategies and thinking, I'm never going to have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, a year later, we're faced with that decision. And in hindsight, there's probably some things I would have done differently. But
like what? Can I ask?
Yeah, sure. I probably would have negotiated more.
Okay.
I think that's...
what do you mean? You just took what you said. She said, I want this, and you gave it to her?
No.
Okay,
Definitely didn't do that.
Okay.
I learned that lesson.
Okay.
But, I think that I had done my own calculations about what the company was worth.
What did you do at like 1.5 times revenue?
I did that. I did a profit model for the next, what sort of profits can we expect to make over the next 3 years? And then I took a combination of those and came up with a number that makes sense, because I think ultimately that's what an acquisition is.
Of course.
What number makes sense to us?
Yeah. How difficult was calculating the value of the brand equity?
Probably one of the most difficult things. I feel like that's...
How do you quantify that?
There's probably a lot more art to that
Right.
than anything. I think that's a lot about like brand loyalty. Like, what makes people more likely to go with Champion or Clayborne over some just random person?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone that's
company.
not random. Someone who's also very talented.
Yeah.
That also rents from me. Dr.
Yeah.
Dawn Anderson.
We work with Dawn a lot.
Yeah.
Dawn is Dawn is one of the people we contract with.
Yeah.
We refer to her. She refers to us. We think she's great.
She's great. Yeah.
You know,
Pays her rent on time.
That's
like
always
that.
a good thing.
I like that.
Yeah, but I think, what makes people want to go with a bigger company, and I think, part of that is their loyalty if they've had previous experience. And so that's what goes into the goodwill of the company, I think, is like, why would a customer want to stay with Champion?
And the feed's blowing up. Rachel Hallmark Cookta. I love some Rachel Hallmark Cookta. She's a doctor. Opened up a family practice with her husband, Adam Cookta, who I went to UVA with. The Cooktas are great people. And Rachel, I hope your practice is killing it. I'm sure it is. Ben Hernandez, one of the best musicians in Charlottesville, joining us here on the feed. Ben Hernandez, big time props to you, homie. I think you're still living on Grave Street, and if you are, I hope you're rocking it and having fun out there, my buddy. The value of the brand equity, I would think, in the transaction. And guys, he's the CEO of Clayborne Education. Early stage, how they expanded their business in Charlottesville, they purchased a competitor called Champion Tutoring. And we're trying to quantify how you go about purchasing a competitor to gain market share. And I asked him about how do you quantify the value of the Champion brand when putting a price tag on the transaction. I would think in your particular circumstance, the value of the brand means less because you're not keeping the brand. You're rolling it into Clayborne.
At the time, we didn't know that.
Oh,
actually,
interesting.
it was my idea to keep the brands separate and to say, Clayborne Education is going to focus on this market segment and Champion is going to focus on this market segment.
Interesting. Walk me through that.
Okay, so that, we offer a number of different services, and Clayborne's brand was really one private test prep.
Okay.
Helping students prepare for college, helping students prepare for graduate school.
Okay.
Champion Tutoring at the time did a little bit more academic tutoring, and they had a younger demographic, a lot more elementary and middle school
Help me
students.
through geometry.
Yes, right. Help me through geometry. I'm struggling with Spanish. And so I thought that those represented two distinct markets, and that Champion was in some ways sort of an early stage feeder into Clayborne. We would get them on the back end when they're looking to go to college and go to grad school.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we were lucky enough. We've been working with the Darden School of Business. We hire Darden MBA students every single summer, and they help us with these decisions.
You pay them?
We pay them, yes.
What kind of pay?
Well, I don't want to really blow up the program too much. It's a really great program. It's a joint venture with the Batten School. It's called the Batten Venture Internship Program.
Yeah. Is Bob Gibson part of the Batten School?
I am not sure
Sorry,
whether
that's
he
me
is.
hopping around here. But talk to me about, do you pay the Darden students to give you an audit of your business?
Yes. You pay them about $7.50 an hour.
Stop
and
it.
The Batten School in Darden picks up the rest. So I don't even want to say it because
so
now
crazy.
everyone else is going to do it.
Dude, you have MBAs at UVA, at the Darden School, arguably one of the best MBA programs in the entire world. Auditing your brand, studying your P&Ls, your balance sheets, giving you knowledge and intel of how to expand, gain market share, and go to other markets, and you're paying them $7.50 an hour.
And the thing is
that's amazing.
These are all these Darden students that elect to do this. They could probably go off and make 20 times that at Goldman Sachs for an internship in the summer. They're choosing to stay in Charlottesville because they want to help local businesses. And that's something that the Darden and Batten School do a great job of, is infusing growth into the Charlottesville community.
Well, the folks that are working and auditing your brand from Darden, those students are the ones that want to be entrepreneurs themselves. The ones that then leave in the summer for the Blackstone. My wife worked at Blackstone and Goldman Sachs. Those are the ones that want to chase paper and get on Wall Street and make $500,000 immediately. And I have no problem with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that are auditing your brands are the future business owners of 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Do you think?
I think so. We've been lucky. Everyone who's worked with the company through Darden has just come back to help us. They've helped feed us more students, and now we work with a lot of different Darden programs. We use the Community Consultants of Darden, which is a group of first-year MBA students who work on a project for you. We have 2 Darden students who do a study internship with us as part of their credit system. So we're really lucky to have been changed by Darden, and for the better.
You're getting people intrigued here, dude. You might be blowing up the biggest secret in Charlottesville.
Oh, man. I knew I shouldn't have said anything.
You're going to like this. Michael put the Clayborne URL, clayborne.com, in the chat box. Check out clayborne.com, guys. They're crushing it, and you clearly can see he's doing it the right way. He follows up with a good question. How do businesses find out about getting Darden students to do that type of audit? That's a good question.
That's a really great question. I think I found out about it through a friend of mine, Nathan Swanson, who owns a consulting company called Wellspring Workforce.
Okay.
It's a great consulting company that helps you with HR decisions and honestly a number of decisions. And Nathan was the one who turned me on to it. Said, hey, look, Darden is doing this program. So probably the best way to learn about these programs is to just find a contact at Darden. I know Abby Reed is one of the people that we connect with.
Go through the Batten School.
Go through the Batten School,
yeah.
and they'll give you
online.
a list of the programs. And they're pretty affordable. You think for the community consultants of Darden, I think that program costs $750.
What?
Having the Darden intern, you have them 40 hours a week all summer. Usually it's like $3,000. You're getting really great value. And I can tell you that all of the projects that we've had them work on have been extraordinarily successful.
Dude, this is like some phenomenal knowledge. Guys, this is game-changing knowledge for people who are watching. Sizzle reel that. I'm not trying to blow the man's spot up, some of the secret sauce. You're helping people. You're genuine. And I can tell that people are like feeling this here. They gave you incredible advice because you, and I appreciate you, but you were going to go down the road of trying to manage two brands, the Champion brand and the Clayborne brand. And it's hard enough to get penetration and market share with the marketing efforts and strategy behind one. This is what I do for a living. Doing two is splintering your efforts. Doing two is potentially splintering your market share. And doing two is causing double the headache because you have to educate the marketplace that both Champion and Clayborne are in concert. Talk to me about that. And do you feel in hindsight it was undoubtedly the right decision?
100% the right decision. And I'll let you know, I was the one that fought it tooth and nail because I make the mistake I think a lot of entrepreneurs make is I get so tied to an idea that I just wasn't listening to enough feedback. And finally, when we had the Darden student on, he did a survey. And, in my mind, logistically, it made sense to separate the two brands and to do the market segmentation. The reality is customers, you're just going to have way too much confusion.
Right.
Why am I being referred to Clayborne and why am I being referred to Champion? If it's the same company, if they're sister companies, why can't I work with you? And so there's just way too much customer confusion. And so 100% confident that it was the right move. And I hadn't met you yet. Otherwise, you would have told me it was a bad idea to try to keep two brands. But folding them under the Clayborne brand just made sense for us. And actually, we still keep the Champion name. We have just got done producing our own curricula. So we're making an ACT book and an SAT book, and it's called SAT Champions and ACT Champions. So the name lives on.
It lives on kind of like in a tagline or as a branding element that kind of like furthers the mission. The cool thing about what he's doing, guys, is this gentleman right here has this kind of mindset, a vertically integrated mindset. This is what this guy's doing, and I'm going to simplify it, and he's going to put it in perspective for us. He understands that he has demand, and the demand is people needing to get into law school. The demand is people needing to get into grad school. Guys, the demand might be a 7th grader needing to pass pre-algebra, right? I mean, that might be the demand.
That is.
And then he also has something that I love to tread on in marketing efforts, and it's called treading on, and I'm going to use words that he's not going to use, but this is exactly what it is. It's treading on and exploiting mom fear. Because I'm going to tell you right now, when a mom gets her mindset on something, especially when it comes to her offspring, her bambino, she will do whatever it takes for her family. And I have seen it so far in 10 months with my wife, my beautiful superhero wife who is watching right now. She is so mama bear and would kill for our son. I see it right now. Okay, I would not get in the way of my wife and our son. And where I'm going with this is I see it right now with a mom and a 10-month-old. I can't even imagine what it's going to be when it's like 13 years of having that mama bear. And a mom will do anything for her kid. So you basically know you have kids are always going to need to go to graduate school. Kids are always going to have to graduate from high school. Moms are always going to want to push the younger kids into tutoring. When it gets to MBA and law school level, these people are self-motivated themselves, so they don't need the mom to kick them in the pants. Your next step, along with providing the infrastructure and filling the demand, your next step is to give the material that's branded itself, that's tied to you, taking your mission to an entirely different stratosphere. That is genius.
That's
genius.
You're absolutely right, Jerry. You're right. I would not like to think about it as preying on the mom.
I know
fear.
you're not.
But I think what we try to do is we realize that parents will do whatever it takes to give their kids the best opportunity, and we know that it's similar to having a personal trainer. You know, if you and I were to go to the gym, we could make our own gains by ourselves. We could watch some YouTube videos, we could learn, we could read some books, and we could learn to do it. But if you have a personal trainer who knows what they're doing, that's all they do, they're going to hold you accountable, you're a lot more likely to see those results.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what we do. And, you know, it's not just providing a better future for students, it's providing peace of mind for parents. Because I am not a parent, but I know that what parents think of is, you just want to have the peace of mind of knowing, okay, my child is in the best hands.
Right,
Okay,
taken care of.
Yes, they're taken care of. I don't want to have to sit here and stress about it. I know this person has it taken care of. And that's basically why we're there.
And I will tell you this, and I knew, and I love my parents to death. My parents are entrepreneurs. My brother and I grew up, my mom and dad started a CPA practice in Naples, Florida. They exited that CPA practice, started another one in Newport News, Virginia, when we lived in Williamsburg. They exited that one as well. So 2 exits I've seen with my mom and dad and their entrepreneurial spirit. My brother and I grew up in the copier room when there was rooms allocated to copier equipment. Literally, remember the copier rooms?
Oh, yeah.
We would be playing with our balls next to the copier room. We have a number of photos on the wall at home of us in the copier room at like 10:30 or 11 p.m. at night when we were in 1st and 2nd grade.
Sitting there playing basketball, breaking the copier.
Figuring out something to entertain ourselves. We hated going to the office, but we had no choice. It was what was expected. Where I'm going with this is, and so many people on the feed, Corbin Snow says, CEO of Snow's Garden Center, he says, this is a fantastic show.
Oh, great.
April Ward says, tutoring is such a valuable commodity. SAT oh, she's got a question for you.
Great.
SAT or ACT, what's better for a high school student?
That's a great question. So what we've realized is that there's no way to tell a priority what test a student is good for. So you can't just look at a student and say, you would be better for an SAT, you'd be better for an ACT. So we've developed our own proprietary preference test called the ACT-SAT preference test. It takes an hour to complete, and within that hour, you get results emailed to you to say, your child is a better fit for the SAT or the ACT. So you want to know this ahead of time, because if you prep for the wrong test, it could be the difference of getting into William & Mary or University of Louisiana. I'm a University of Louisiana graduate, go Raging Cajuns, but I can tell you that in the spectrum, William & Mary is a much better school. So you'd hate to do all this preparation for a test and lower your chances of getting into those top tier schools.
Great answer right there. And she has, in April, I believe you have a teenager in high school. Correct me if I'm wrong there. She has an army of children, April Ward does. Where I was going with my topic, and thank you so much, April, for that question. Thank you for contributing to the program. Where I was going with the topic of like my adolescence and how it ties to you guys is, I see that you are constantly like maturing your efforts and maturing your brand. You have big plans. You have big visions. That's just who you are. Talk to us about the Richmond expansion. I mean, why not? This is something entrepreneurs struggle with. Why not just own Charlottesville? You can make a great living in Charlottesville. Your partner can make a great living in Charlottesville. You could play, the man loves squash and is a tremendous squash player. You could play squash every day, which is something you're passionate about. Why not just own Charlottesville? Why go to Richmond?
That's a good question. I think it's so that we can help more students. I think that's really why any entrepreneur grows their business. Sure, there's the thought that you'll make more money. In my experience, you'll certainly make more revenue. The profits may not increase at the same rate.
Right.
But for us, we just want to help more students. And you're right. Going to Richmond is a beta test to see, did we just create something that's good for Charlottesville, or can we really help students from all over the world? I know that we can help students all over the world. It's just a matter of proving it in Richmond. That way we can move to other markets after that.
April loved your answer, and she said she's going to be contacting you.
Great.
She's a junior in high school. April, he would be happy to connect you. I don't want to speak for you, but you would be happy to connect to the right tutor.
Absolutely.
Clayborne Education, guys, is in the chat box if you want to jump on board. Richmond seems to be a very different beast because you have competitors that have been in the market long-standing. Put in perspective what it's like to go toe-to-toe with competitors that have been in there for long periods of time, and put in perspective what it's like to go toe-to-toe with long-standing competitors when you have no brand equity in the Richmond marketplace.
Yeah, that's basically what we're facing right now.
What are you doing?
What are we doing? Great. So what we're doing. So first of all, to just say that to confirm your point, yes, when we move into Richmond, the biggest test prep competitors in the world are there. One of the biggest test prep outfits is from California, and they are global, and they are one of our most direct competitors. We also have a competitor from North Carolina moving in there. We feel like what positions us is we know Central Virginia.
Okay.
And while Richmond is a different market than Charlottesville, you get the same sort of personalities, and we feel like that's one of our edges. But I think what's even bigger than that is no other company has the community outreach and social benefit like we do. I had to talk to our manager earlier this week, and I had to tell her that we give away 10% of our revenue to our pro bono efforts.
10%.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean,
my goodness. I love that.
Just thinking about that, putting that in perspective.
10% of gross?
10% of gross revenue.
10% of net.
10% of 10% of all revenue goes towards one of our scholarship efforts.
That is amazing. I salute you. I call you crazy.
I give you
big time props.
Yeah.
Did you hear what he just said? 10% of gross revenue he is donating to pro bono efforts that help the community. Can you sizzle reel that, Harris, for this man? I am a social entrepreneur. We've raised $114,000 in 10 years. I am not even going to say that's close to 10% of gross. I applaud you, my friend.
We might be giving away too much, and I think that's what my manager's upset about. But I think that's what makes us different than these big companies. So what we're really trying to focus on when we go to these communities is we're not trying to go there and make money off of their students. What we're trying to do is we're trying to enrich the community. Do the same thing we did here in Charlottesville, which is, sure, we have a for-profit side, but it's so that we can fund and work with under-resourced communities, and again, helping bridge that achievement gap. We know that's a big problem here in Charlottesville. Charlottesville is not unique. They have that same problem in Richmond.
Great answer right there. Keely Kitchens, thank you for joining us, Keely. I hope you're doing well. Are you in Georgia, Keely? Where are you in New Zealand? Let us know where you're at, Keely Kitchens. Thank you for joining us on the show here. The achievement gap is a good topic. We talk about on this show a lot about, we had Mayor Walker on the show. We had Counselor Heather Hill. We had Counselor Kathleen Galvin. We had Planning Commissioner Rory Stolzenberg. We have some big-time heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Lee Elberson, big-time heavy hitter on the program. And we talk about affordable housing. And everyone has said it's an affordable housing crisis. How does the affordable housing piece impact the achievement gap?
That's a great question. I think they're directly correlated because...
You've thought about this, I see.
Yes, absolutely. Because, my work at Clayborne to try to give away pro bono services, my work at CIC to try, it's all of this trying to help the under-resourced community. And the way it affects students is one of the major factors that leads to student success, Jerry. It's the parents'
home life.
It's the parents' buy-in.
Right.
If the parents are spending all of their time struggling, they're working 2 jobs, they can't find a place to live, it's not that they don't care about their kids. They're just trying to keep the wheels on. They're just trying to make sure that the boat doesn't start sinking. And the more time that they have to develop to their kids is less time they're worried about their house. So if they have affordable housing, if they're able to overcome that poverty line, the students will be more successful.
How about the New York Times article outlining the? This is a tough question for you. Okay, New York Times article, recent, I think it was in the last 45 days, outlining some of the trouble in Charlottesville City Schools. And one of the things that is very intriguing was in your advanced or AP courses, your advanced placement courses, your honors courses in Charlottesville City Schools, this particular article spotlighted the fact that there is an overwhelming amount of white students in these advanced and honors courses. Overwhelming amount. An amount where, like, if it was just a random data, if it was just random coincidence, you could not get to this point. You know, it's
Yeah.
for some reason this is okay. Open-ended. You know more about this than I do.
Yeah. So I think first of all, I want to say that Superintendent Rosa Adkins. I think her response was great.
Yeah.
I've had the chance to speak with Rosa on a number of occasions, and I think it's important to recognize that the problem that we're seeing now, this didn't start happening 2 years ago. This problem has been in the works for dozens of years. It probably could be linked to 12 years ago. These students struggling now, and it's not a problem that necessarily will get solved in the next year.
What do you mean? How can it be linked to 12 years ago? Educate me.
So I think it's really the way that our classroom structure has evolved. And when you think about the way we're benchmarking students to put them in these classes, if your only benchmark for a student progressing on is a single test, you know, SOLs, SATs and ACTs, and you know this means a lot coming from me. I don't think the SATs or the ACTs are a good benchmark for how a student is going to perform.
Okay.
I think there's a better way to do it. And so
why do you think that?
Because
people get anxious for tests?
You have test anxiety, that certainly leads into it, but they've done a number of studies that the best outcome of how a student will do on an SAT is their parents' income. I mean, if that's the identifier, why don't you just ask them that question and not make the kids take a 4-hour test for it? Because you already know how they're going to do. You need, in my opinion, some sort of A and B testing. Give a student an initial test and see how they can develop in the next 6 months to grow to that same test and how much effort they'll put in. That's basically, it's a sort of a project mindset, how well they can do on a single project.
It seems to be, I love this conversation. You are blowing up the feed right now. Guys, like and share the feed. We're getting super macro and super deep here with this man. Peter Sweeney, thank you for joining us. Sarah Hill-Buczynski, thank you for joining us. We love you guys. Thank you for supporting the show. This guy is opening up my mind. So you just said there is a direct correlation with mom and dad's income with how their offspring, their son or daughter, perform on the SAT or the ACT. If mom and dad have more money, they give little Susie and little Johnny more resources, potentially Clayborne tutors,
sure.
Potentially books that they can purchase to help on their own, and then the kid then performs better on what is arguably one of the biggest gateway mechanisms to figuring out if they can get into college or not. The ACT or SAT is a gateway to figuring out whether you can go to higher education. Where I'm going with this, and let's get macro, where I'm going with this is, this seems to be a systematic problem that is creating a generational, I mean, not even generational, century-type impact of pushing down a lower economic demographic of people and keeping them there for generations to come.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, Jerry, and you really hit the nail on the head. That, you know, the reason why I say this, the problem started long ago, is because if the parents aren't in a position to make sufficient income, I mean, it's certainly the money for tutors, but it's again, it's all goes back to time. You and I were talking about this before we started this interview. What's your most valuable asset? It's not money, it's time, right? If you have time to invest in your child and not spend time working about two jobs and worrying about finding a place to live, then you're going to be able to help them more. It also is really difficult because it's not just the academic rigor. There's also the social rigor. I came from first-generation family. I was a first-generation college student, and so my parents didn't really know what are you supposed to do to get into college. I had to figure it out on my own. So having parents who have been through it, you know, more likely to make you successful. Parents who are going to sort of hold your feet to the fire, they've got more time to help you out. That's all leading to this problem. So we need to give the parents more time. That'll make the students more successful.
Love it, love it, love it. And I love what you're doing. And I love this conversation. It's really opening up my eyes and enlightening me here. We filled an hour. We're at 61 minutes. It's felt like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
You've killed it. I want to continue the conversation, but I have somebody that's meeting me in 19 minutes. I'm going to close the program by giving more of the show to you. And I want to close the program by saying why should folks work or partner with Clayborne. So that's coming up. I also want you to put a little button, like tie the bow on CIC for us. We'll turn both into highlight reels.
Great.
So you have an opportunity to think about it. I'll thank the sponsors so you formulate your thoughts. We'll start with the CIC first. Thank you to Roy Wheeler Realty Co for being a part of this program. Guys, this is a trusted real estate firm. And Roy Wheeler is doing things the right way. You're not going to be around for as long as Roy Wheeler has unless you're doing things the right way. And it starts with its CEO and Michael Guthrie, who you've heard participate and contribute to this program. Dude is a rock star. And please someone tell Michael Guthrie that Jerry Miller said he was a rock star. In fact, he's watching right now. You're a rock star, Michael Guthrie. Dr. Scott Wagner, he is good people at Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. Intrastate Inc. Did you know for 4 generations, Intrastate Pest and Service Companies has been a home's best friend? I mean, it started with one man and one truck and making phone calls out of a phone booth. Now it's a 4-generation business that is run the right way, that gives back constantly to our community. And lastly, Greenberry's Coffee. Guys, Greenberry's Coffee is doing things the right way. Husband and wife started in Charlottesville building a global business with a beat-up Honda Civic and a dream and some sweat equity. Can you see the mission of the program is to spotlight folks? Let's go to Lee Elberson in the 2-shot, Harris, like this man right here, who is, I think, also a rock star. And I want to close with 2 questions that we're going to turn into sizzle reels. This is the question I have. CIC, the Community Investment Collaborative. Why should someone that's an aspiring entrepreneur want to get involved in the CIC?
Well, great question. I think every entrepreneur in Charlottesville should want to get involved in CIC in some capacity. Let's say that you're a very successful entrepreneur. That's great. They have mentorships available. You can help bring up the next stage of entrepreneurs. Let's say you're not an entrepreneur. Let's just say you're really good at understanding the tax code, or you're really good at understanding the customer journey. Great. We always need discussion leaders. We need mentors. We need people to help lead those. Let's say that you just want to feel the energy of entrepreneurs. You want to help guide them through this journey. We need work group leaders. They're there with the students every week for 16 weeks. And then finally, of course, the most important, if you want to start a business, you say, I've got this idea. I really think I could start my own tutoring company, but I don't know what the steps are, or I don't know how I'm going to get money. How am I going to, will I make money? These are all the questions that you need answered. Come to us, and we have the resources to help you realize these. We have the manpower to help make sure you do it. And then, again, we have microloans to help you get your business started. So it really is just a full-service organization that's really meant to empower people to reach their dreams.
Love that answer. I love that answer. Sizzle reel that for me, Harris. I've seen it firsthand. I have a tenant, guys, in the Macklin building who is fabulous, named Frances Ingram, who I believe had a micro loan from the CIC, and she is crushing it and taking names on the second floor. I've seen it firsthand. We have a really good question from an entrepreneur, and then I want to get to the Clayborne answer.
Great.
So maybe can I ask
Sure.
you? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Sarah says, we talk about economic growth versus social justice all the time in Charlottesville. I've said on the show, maybe council's more prioritizing social justice instead of economic growth. And I've said that they could work concert and hand to hand. And Sarah asked a really good question that I've also thought of. With economic growth and better opportunities, can't that lead to increased social justice?
Yeah, I don't think that those two are mutually exclusive. I think that you can, if you're trying to empower people to reach their dreams, then it's really about who in the community you're trying to empower. And as long as you are socially blind, it doesn't matter where you draw your entrepreneurs from, you try to get them from everywhere in the community, it will be a socially just community, and you are going to make those businesses successful. And success means different things to different people. We're not trying to make everybody a millionaire. Maybe they don't want to grow their business to Richmond. Maybe they're just trying to focus on making their neighborhood better. Hey, if I start this business in my neighborhood, more people will come to it and it'll be better. Great, that's what we're trying to do. And I think the more entrepreneurs you get that are trying to better the community, the better off you'll be. And pretty much all the businesses in CIC are making Charlottesville a better place.
I love that answer. I freaking love that answer, dude. Oh, so bueno, dude. You crushed. You crushed. Last one. That camera right there.
Got it.
Sizzle reel. Clayborne Education. You have represented it so well. Clayborne Education, my friend. Give us the snapshot, perspective, the vision, the mission, why people should get involved. You have an amazing team. I mean, just put everything in perspective here.
Okay, got it. So it's probably best to just start with the team. We have the most brilliant people in Charlottesville working at Clayborne Education. We have an operations team who makes sure that parents and students are aware of exactly what their trajectory is. We are extremely flexible. You know, things come up. We don't expect you to set a schedule and be with it every single day. You may say, oh God, Johnny's got a squash game on Thursday, or we're going to be out of town on college visits. That's great. We're flexible. We have our operations team there. Every department, whether it's LSAT, GMAT, MCAT, GRE, ACT, they all have their own program directors who are people who are dedicated to making sure that your child hits those benchmarks, make sure they make it to their goal. Because we're not just trying to help them, score better on the test. We're trying to make sure that they understand how they get there throughout the pathway. That's the holistic approach we use, so that when they get to college and they have to do it on their own, we've given them those skills. And then finally, we're trying to reduce the anxiety. There's so much anxiety around taking tests, around doing better. We're focusing on reducing that anxiety first and letting you be successful. And we are going to be the personal trainers who help you get there.
I love it. I love it. Sizzle reel that, baby. You have made tutoring cool.
I hope so.
That is difficult. You have made tutoring absolutely cool. You're like a cool dude.
You would be surprised at how many of our students tell us they look forward to coming
I totally
to tutoring.
believe it.
We offer online tutoring, but we'd be surprised at how many students want to come to our center. We're right there on Locust Avenue, and they just enjoy coming into the building. It's an old house from the Martha Jefferson estate, so it's fun. It's very disarming. You don't feel like you're in a business. You feel like you're in somebody's home, and that's the atmosphere we're going for.
I think your next step, and I love to have this conversation. Your next step in your vertically integrated empire is ownership of an epicenter location. And ownership of a location where you and your partners are paying rent from your tutoring business to your real estate business, essentially what I'm doing here. And along with ownership of your location, it will allow you to build out infrastructure that you need. For example, I think Clayborne needs a set. I think Clayborne needs to be able to get you on camera in front of people where you are offering not only tutoring perspective, but maybe like a roadmap for this is the path I would take for you to go become an MBA. This is the path I would take for law firm. This is what we can do to get your son through geometry. Humanize, localize, and personalize the Lee Elberson brand, because the Lee Elberson brand, a lot of ways, is the Clayborne brand. And if we get you in front of camera and more people, people will be touched by your charisma, confidence, and conversational skill set. That's some fantastic alliteration right there, by the way. So where I'm going with this is, your next step in building an epicenter is building a vertically integrated empire. You're now publishing the curriculum.
Yep, make our own curriculum.
You now have tutors that hit every single subject matter needed.
Yep.
You can funnel the kids from early on all the way to graduate school.
Correct.
The location.
And we need a set. So, Richard, you hear that?
Richard's watching.
Richard's watching.
Why is Lee Elberson not on Facebook? Why are you not on Facebook?
That's a whole different story.
Okay, that's a conversation for another, because I've been trying to tag you.
Yeah, I'm not on Facebook anymore.
He is on LinkedIn. Connect with him on LinkedIn. You crushed it. Thank you.
Yeah, Jerry,
Did you have fun?
Did you have fun? I had a blast. God, I hope I can get a chance to do this again someday.
You will. Absolutely, 100%. Tomorrow is Kimberly Johnson, Fluvanna, and Zion's Crossroads, and Louisa, real estate expert. On Thursday, we have Gerard Smith, who's running for the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors. We have Sina McGill on Friday, who's running for Charlottesville City Council. Next week, already committed, is Melissa Closehart, the executive chef at Junction Restaurant. Guys, I love connecting with you through this. I truly do. And why I do is because I'm passionate about Charlottesville, and I can tell that you guys are as well. And the whole game plan and mission of this program is to positively spotlight Charlottesville, Virginia, its leaders, its influencers, its politicians, the people that are making a positive impact. We are social entrepreneurs or conscious capitalists at Charlottesville and at I Love CVille and at my company. And what we do is I'm committed to leaving this community in a better place than when I first arrived. And one of the ways I'm doing this is by allocating our most precious commodity, our human capital and our time, to a show like this that allows me to spotlight other entrepreneurs and business owners like Lee, the rock star Elberson from Clayborne Education. That's the whole mission of the show. The whole mission of Clayborne is social entrepreneurship, conscious capitalism, leaving the community in a better place than we first arrived. It's amazing. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. Running a for-profit business can work in concert with leaving our community in a better spot. If you take something from the show, please take that. Tomorrow I'm going to be back here at 12:30, so that's going to be in 22 hours and some quick math, 22 hours and 22 hours and change. Yeah.
Might need some, hey, come to Clayborne for some math tutoring. We can help you figure that out, Jerry.
That's funny. That's funny. We're going to come back tomorrow with Kimberly Johnson, a Fluvanna, Louisa County real estate expert. It's so beautiful connecting with you guys. I'm Jerry Miller. It's I Love CVille. We close the same way. Please, Charlottesville, please embody the golden rule. And please be good to each other. We'll see you soon tomorrow. Have a good afternoon. Dude, so fun. So fun.
Man,
you were so good.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, that was
so
what a great show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get what
we did a lot of engagement. Yeah.
Dude,